Good morning, everyone. So we got a debate, but what I'm going to do is the way this talk is going to go through is I'm just going to run through some of the cases, interesting cases which you have done, and then I'm going to show the data, what is the data for hepatic resection versus other modalities of treatment, and then I'm conclude my talk by sharing all the resections we have done over the last decade or so in ILBS. So this is just to show that how hepatic resection has evolved over the last few decades, and the outcome have been consistently improving from a mortality of around 15% in 60s to current mortality of almost 0% with a morbidity of 10%. So that's where the techniques of hepatic resection has evolved, and how the perioperative care has also improved as well, leading to better outcome in this group of patients. So when we are selecting patient for resection, these are the few important things which we need to keep in mind. That is the tumor stage, that means the size, number, vascular invasion, and the extrahepatic disease. Then always in terms of when we are considering resection for HCC especially, we need to keep in mind the underlying liver disease, whether patient has got steatosis, steatohepatitis, fibrosis or cirrhosis. Then the liver function, which can be evaluated simply by a child score or a MELD. And then more commonly, which we are using more and more, is ICG retention. Then there can be scintigraphy as well. And also hypertrophy after portal vein embolization is a good judgment of how the liver is going to grow after resection as well. Then in terms of resection for HCC, portal pressure is very important, which can be measured indirectly by clinically significant portal hypertension, that's varices, platelet count, and splenomegaly, or they are collaterals, and indirectly measured by HPVG measurement, which is very commonly done here in ILBS. And obviously liver volumetry becomes very important in terms of how much is going to be the remnant liver after the resection. So just start with how a large HCC is dealt with. And this is a 63-year-old man, hypertensive, diabetes, alcoholic liver disease, had a large HCC of 10 centimeter in segment 5, 6, and 7. His child's AFP was 60. He had no clinically significant portal hypertension. Platelet were more than 200, and remnant volume was more than 40%. So what is the evidence for large HCC resection? So there is no clear definition of how to define a large HCC. Most centers will take it as more than 5 centimeter. There will be centers who will be taking 8 centimeter or 10 centimeter as well. The size as such is not a problem, but it is an important prognostic factor because it is associated with increased incidence of macrovascular invasion and also extrahepatic disease. Actually, if we consider HCC size, size may not be actually that big a problem. It is actually smaller HCC may be associated more commonly with vascular invasion and metastatic disease because tumor biology plays an important part. So if you got a smaller tumor with aggressive tumor biology, they may have actually more poor prognosis. And large HCC major hepatectomy was considered to be high risk, but I have already shown you the data how the resection outcomes have evolved with the improvement in surgical technique and perioperative care. So just to show how data fares in terms of liver resection versus stays for a large HCC, this is from China, large series of patients, and these are considered into BCLC-B, and clearly the outcomes are better with liver resection compared to TACE. So here the 5-year survival with resection was 37% versus 14% for TACE. Our own data we published a while ago, and this was a small series, but still the 3-year survival was more than 50% in this group of patients with a median tumor diameter of 9 centimeter. So in this particular patient, he underwent a resection. This was a modified right hepatectomy, and this is just to show after the resection the liver. We say it is non-cirrhotic, but still you can see that it is not a normal liver. And he's now 8 years down the line without any recurrence and doing well, and also didn't have any decompensation as well. So that's the story about large HCCs and the outcome of hepatic resection. Coming to multifocal HCCs, again 45-year-old man with ECOG 0, presented with upper abdominal pain, On ultrasound was found to have an SOL. CCT showed 2 lesions, one large in segment 5 and 6, and another one in segment 2 and 3 as well. So this is the larger lesion, and there was another lesion in segment 2 and 3 as well. No portal venous thrombosis, no collateral splenomegaly ascites, alpha-fetoprotein was 150, platelets were good, normal bilirubin and albumin. So what is the evidence for multifocal HCC? Almost 1/3 of HCC will be multifocal at presentation. Again, multifocality is associated with worse tumor biology, increased incidence of recurrence, and poor long-term survival. If we go with BCLC classification, they will be considered either for liver transplantation if they meet the criteria, no, otherwise they will be considered for percutaneous ablation. But the evidence is actually quite contradictory. This is an RCT comparing radiofrequency ablation versus surgical resection, and it clearly shows that the overall survival was much better, and also the recurrence-free survival was much better with resection. With resection, it was 75% versus 55% with RF ablation, and recurrence-free survival was 51% with resection, and RF ablation it was 28%, which was significant as well. When we come to subgroup analysis of multifocal, again with resection it was 70%, and with RF ablation it was 45%. This is a large group, around 230 patients which were randomized. Coming to meta-analysis of this particular RF ablation or locoregional therapy versus resection. So there are 25 studies which were studied, in which 6 were RCTs comparing local liver resection versus RF ablation, and 12 were matched non-RCTs, and one was again RCT comparing liver resection versus RF plus TACE, and another. And then there were a few other studies comparing liver resection with microwave ablation. And what it showed was liver resection was associated with significantly better recurrence-free survival, and also in the randomized control trials and in the subgroup analysis, which if we take everything in consideration, overall survival was also better with liver resection compared to RFA or TACE or microwave ablation. So this was within Milan criteria. Then when we come outside Milan, that is tumor which are larger than 5 centimeter in size, and when we have tumor more than 3 in numbers, that is outside Milan criteria. Again, this is a large set of data which was analyzed. Again, an RCT was performed, and between partial hepatectomy and TACE, 90 in each group. And this again showed that partial hepatectomy is associated with better overall survival and recurrence-free survival. That was around 50% with resection and 18% with TACE. So coming to our own case, so this particular gentleman underwent a liver resection. This was a larger tumor in the right lobe, and another tumor in the segment 2 and 3, both were resected. And he is again almost more than 4 years from his resection, and he is recurrence-free as well. Coming to vascular invasion, because this is considered to be one of the main thing of not referring patient for liver resection. So again, we come down to another case, 56-year-old gentleman who was a general physician, ECOG 0, incidentally detected to have a lesion in the right lobe of the liver. That is the arterial phase here. Quite a large lesion in the right lobe of the liver. And if you had to look at the venous phase here, so the right portal vein is not really seen. You can see there is a tumor thrombus into the right portal vein extending towards the main portal vein as well. So what is the evidence for this? So this is the data, again huge set of data from Japan liver cancer study group, and around 6,000 patients with portal venous thrombosis, tumor thrombosis. More than 2,000 were resected, and more than 4,000 were offered other modalities of treatment, and they also did a propensity matching as well. So when we look at child A, again liver resection fares much better than non-resected group. Even in child B with portal venous tumor thrombosis, liver resection actually did much better than the other modalities of treatment. And when the propensity matching was done, again the survival was much better with even in the presence of portal venous thrombosis, tumor thrombosis. And then in the analysis they found age, viral infection, higher alpha-fetoprotein levels, and tumor number, and extent of portal venous thrombosis were the risk factors for poor prognosis. So the extent is important. If it is up to the lobar portal vein, then it is okay. Once it goes into the main portal vein, then you've got a problem in terms of offering resection to this group of patient. So in this particular patient, our own patient, this is just to show the hilar dissection. And this is the portal vein which is filled with the tumor. We already done the parenchymal transection here. And this is the final resection of this patient. And again, histopathology did show positive for malignancy. The thrombus was positive for malignancy. And he's almost more than 2 years from his resection, and he is recurrence free as well. Then another issue comes is remnant volume, which is very key because most of the time you will see that the tumor are large and the remnant volume is low. So whether to offer those group of patient resection or not. This is again a lady who had a large HCC 17 centimeter in the size, involving the right lobe and segment 4A as well. AFP was 200. You can see the large size of the lesion. It is involving the caudate as well and pushing the left pedicle onto the other side. And there is a smaller left lateral segment here. Just to show again the tumor size and how much is the extent of this tumor. So how we should evaluate this group of patient? So when you're doing volumetries, so what is important is to take FLR in consideration, not about the whole liver volume. So the whole liver volume was 1700, tumor volume was more than 700, and the FLR actually was coming around to 246, that was around 24.6%. Again, she had other evaluation. There was no clinically significant portal hypertension. Platelets were good. So we offered her resection, and she underwent a extended right hepatectomy with caudate lobectomy. This was an R0 resection as well. Just to show the intraoperative photographs here. That's the cava here, and that's the whole parenchyma being transected. That's the middle vein, and that's the remnant liver here. So that's the residual liver, segment 2-3 left behind. And this is just the photographs of the specimen, extended right with caudate resection. On follow-up, she did develop recurrence 4 years after, and she had multiple RF ablation 3 times, and she's still alive with 8 years post-resection. And we did offer her salvage transplant, but she was not keen to have it. So liver volume, as I said, the important thing is it's about how much you're going to leave behind. In a normal liver, it is around 25 to 30%. In a steatohepatitis, it should be more than 35%. In cirrhosis, severe fibrosis, it should be more than 40% as well. It can be calculated manually or with Marian software, which we have. And portal vein embolization actually can give you a fair degree of idea about how the liver is going to regenerate after the resection. So what happens when you have low remnant? This was a 21-year-old man with an SOL, large SOL, hepatitis B positive. He had a high DNA count. Liver biopsy showed chronic hepatitis with minimal activity. You can see there is a large lesion involving the right lobe of the liver with segment 4A and a very small left lateral segment as well. So on volumetry, his left lateral segment was only 90 cc. So he underwent a TACE followed by a portal vein embolization. So whenever you're considering portal vein embolization, especially in the setting of HCC, now the evidence has evolved. And it will say that the TACE should be proceeded before doing a portal vein embolization in order to decrease the tumor growth, or actually not letting the tumor grow while you are waiting for resection to happen. So his AFP did come down after TACE and portal vein embolization. PIPCA also decreased. His ICG was 6. And then we finally resected him. This is his intraoperative photograph. This was a non-cirrhotic liver, but a huge tumor sitting in the right lobe coming up to the segment 4 as well. And this is an extended right hepatectomy as well. So he had a good recovery. The tumor actually, that's what the problem with HCC classification, still having a large tumor, but it was PT2. And that's the problem with the current classifications of HCCs actually. So this is the evidence for combining TACE with portal vein embolization in when you have low remnant. So whenever you are thinking of doing portal vein embolization, now there is good evidence that you should combine it with TACE as well. The other thing comes in play is performance status. We've seen many patients who are elderly, who will have poor performance status, and whether to offer resection into this group of patient or not. Again, our own patient, 65-year-old female with ECOG1. She had diabetes, schizophrenia, and drug-induced Parkinsonism as well. She had an MRM done 5 years ago for breast cancer and a hysterectomy 15 years ago as well. Again, large tumor sitting right into the middle of the right lobe at the bifurcation of the right anterior and posterior pedicle. And so what is the evidence in patient with the poor performance status? And the evidence actually suggests that even in the presence of poor performance status, surgical resection actually outfares the TACE or other modalities of treatment, even in patient with beyond Milan criteria. So this is again to show surgical resection versus TACE, and even in the presence of performance status 1, more than 1, surgical resection actually does better than other modalities of treatment. So one of the things which comes is how to assess liver function in this group of patient, and that is child score is a fair bit, but with the problem with the child score is it's slightly subjective as well, and it may not actually differentiate between late A and early B, which is quite a common group of patient, and that's where the crux comes in. That because once you label B, then you will say that not to resect. But there will be candidate with early B who may be fit enough to undergo resection. That's why other modalities have come. MELD has been shown as a very good predictor in terms of overall prognosis. So if you have a MELD less than 9, then it fares well after resection as well. Then it comes ICG retention. I'm not going to go in details of those, but again, just to show data on MELD, MELD less than 9 actually is associated with a better prognosis in terms of postoperative liver failure and postoperative complications as well. ICG, not going to go in detail, but ICG retention is commonly done, and it's a very good predictor of postoperative liver dysfunction after resection. And if you still have problems in terms of extent of liver damage, then it's worthwhile doing a liver biopsy from the normal liver, non-tumorous liver, to see the extent of liver damage actually. So in that particular patient, she was child A, MELD was 8, ICG was 3, volumetry was good, more than 37%. We offered her resection, and she underwent a formal right hepatectomy. And this is just two intraoperative photographs after the right hepatectomy for her. Now coming to another case, this is most important bit, how to evaluate portal hypertension in patient whom you're going to offer resection. So this was a 58-year-old male with ECOG 0. Upper abdomen pain, SOL in the liver, DNA was high as well, AFP was 1.4, PIPCA was normal as well. He had a cirrhotic liver. You can see the irregular borders here, and there is a tumor sitting in the caudate lobe of the liver here. So he will require an extended right hepatectomy in order to get an R0 resection. There was no portal vein thrombosis, tumor thrombosis, there was no extrahepatic disease. So the problem in this patient is had a cirrhotic liver, grade 1 varices, mild splenomegaly, and platelets were 100. So how to evaluate this patient further for resection? So there are ways. Either you do directly by measuring HPVG. If HPVG is more than 10, again the risk is high. I'm going to show you some data on that. But I think the most important is clinically significant portal hypertension, defined as varices, splenomegaly, and a platelet count of less than 100. And resection in the presence of clinically significant portal hypertension is associated with poor prognosis. So this is just to show last set of data. Portal hypertension, 700, more than 700, non-portal hypertension, 1500, and clinically significant portal hypertension was associated with increased postoperative mortality, occurrence of postoperative complication, liver-related mortality, and liver failure as well. So coming to direct measurement of portal pressure, and there have been quite a few studies, and it has become a sort of tendency to do HPVG. There is no harm in doing HPVG, it's good. But you should not be basing your decision on HPVG. And this is the paper which highlights, it's in hepatology. There were 70 patients with a median MELD of 8. 34 of them had an HPVG of more than 10. And as expected, higher HPVG was associated with higher complication rate. What was unexpected was nearly 24% of this patient had an uneventful postoperative recovery even after having a higher HPVG. So you can't exclude patient based on HPVG. That's the important thing. You have to take everything in consideration rather than just on one particular reading. You can't just deny patient a curative option. So again, when you have tumors like this, the HPVG will always be fallacious because the veins are pushed out on the other side, and if you try and measure pressure into those veins, they won't give you a right reading. Okay. So now there is some interesting data on whether you can resect in the presence of portal hypertension or not. Again, large set of data, 1700 patient portal hypertension in more than 300 without nearly 1300 patient. The 19-day mortality was associated higher in patient with associated portal hypertension. But when they did the propensity matching, then that actually it got lost. Because when you have early stage tumor, early HCCs, even in the presence of portal hypertension, they have an equal outcome, whether you have with or without portal hypertension. So if it's an early tumor, 3 centimeter, 5 centimeter tumor within Milan criteria, and if the other factors are fitting in, you should still offer resection because it may be associated with a better prognosis than other modalities of treatment. And when we compare, this is the comparison between radiofrequency ablation and liver resection in patient with portal hypertension. Again, the overall survival was not different, but recurrence-free survival was different between liver resection group and RFA, even in the presence of portal hypertension. So that's an important point. You should not deny patient liver resection even in the presence of portal hypertension early stages. So coming to our own patient, this was his liver, cirrhotic liver, completely mobilized off the cava. This is cava here. This is the caudate lobe. And this is the tumor here sitting there. These are actually bulldogs onto the vascular pedicle. And so this is just after slinging the portal vein and the arteries. And that's the resection. And that's the remnant liver after the resection. That's the specimen photograph with caudate lobe extended right hepatectomy. And he actually remained recurrence free until 5 years, and then he developed decompensation. And we did offer him transplant, but he didn't have a donor. So finally he didn't make it actually. So what I've shown you is, this is BCLC, which is commonly used and which is actually very fallacious. It should not be used for deciding treatment modalities in patient with HCCs. And if you see what BCLC is saying, that stage 0, very early stage, single HCC, not normal pressure, bilirubin, then only resection. There is no resection here. And I already shown you data that all this can come down to resection. So single HCC, more than 3 nodules up to 3 centimeter. Obviously, do portal pressure. If early clinically significant portal hypertension, you can still offer resection. Multinodular tumors, I have shown you the data. You can still offer resection. Even in the presence of advanced disease, segmental portal invasion, you can still offer them resection with a better survival than other modalities of treatment. Main portal vein invasion, obviously systemic therapy. So coming to our IL-based experience, so we've done 106, 93 of this are male. The age distribution, nearly 50 of them are more than 60 years in age. So high proportion elderly patient coming with HCCs. Coming to etiology, looks like something went wrong here. Okay, so quite a few of them are idiopathic, no known etiology, but 35% had hepatitis B, then 6% had alcohol, and 21% had NASH as a background liver disease. Non-cirrhotic were around 54%, child A were 40%, and 6% were child B. Coming to BCLC scoring, if you take BCLC scoring, nearly 34% of this were within BCLC B and C. That's a very high proportion, good proportion of patients which we have resected in advanced disease as well. Coming to clinically significant portal hypertension, so 18 of them actually had, something went wrong with that thing, but 18 of them actually had clinically significant portal hypertension as well. Alpha-fetoprotein median was 11, tumor size median was 8.5 centimeter, quite a good proportion of patients, 38% of them had a tumor which was more than 10 centimeter in size, only 21 actually were less than 5 centimeter in size. Background liver disease, actually when we say non-cirrhotic, that's a very vague terminology now. I think it should be stopped, we should stop using that non-cirrhotic thing, because normal was only in 10. Rest of them actually had either had fibrosis, inflammation, steatosis, and a high proportion of patients, if you see F3, F4 fibrosis, and 29 of them actually had frank cirrhosis on histopathology. Coming to multifocality, again 14 of this were multifocal, rest of them were unifocal. And coming to macrovascular invasion on preoperative imaging, 24% actually had tumor thrombus, and even we are done with patient with HVTT as well. And one of them had in main portal vein as well. Extent of resection, so nearly 70% of this were major resection. I don't know why this is showing this way, but 70% of this were major resection and only 30% were minor resection. So less than 3 segment, around 40%, more than 3 segment, 52%, and nearly 50%, and more than 4 segment were 12 of them, that is 11%. So quite a large number of patients who had major resection. There were R1 resection in 4 of them, and microvascular invasion was present in nearly 50% of this patient on histopathology as well. And the grade of tumor most common was grade 2, and but the grade 3 was in 24% of this patient as well. Clavin-Dindo, that's the morbidity and mortality after the procedure. So grade 1 was seen in 33, grade 2 was seen in 5.6%, and grade C was seen in 2.8%. And there were 3 mortalities post-operative, perioperative mortality. One was because of post-apoplectomy liver failure, one fungal sepsis, and one had a cardiac event. So that is as comparable to as any best centers in the world in terms of overall outcome. Recurrence was seen in 40% of this. Most of them were hepatic, but both combined were seen in 17, and extrahepatic was seen in 20 of this. This is the crux of thing. So survival, overall survival was 60% at 5 years. Recurrence-free survival was 48%. And this has got a median follow-up of 25 months, which is fairly good. And time to recurrence was 28 months. And when we divide them into cirrhotic versus non-cirrhotic, so non-cirrhotic, again, the survival was better, 68% at 5 years. And in cirrhotic, it was 50% overall survival at 5 years. Non-cirrhotic recurrence-free survival was 52% versus 40% for cirrhotic 5-year survivals. So coming to management algorithm, child A, early B, good performance status, or maybe 1, ECOG 1, MELD of less than 9, remnant more than 35%, ECG 10, ICG less than 10, no extrahepatic split, no involvement of main portal vein, tumor may be large, multifocal, they should be offered resection. If you got extrahepatic disease, it's always systemic therapy. If there's an involvement of main portal vein, multilobar disease with a remnant of less than 35%, you should offer them locoregional therapy. If they respond to treatment, they should be offered surgical resection. If they don't respond, we should do a systemic therapy on them. So the management of HCC has evolved, and it is always multidisciplinary. The main idea is how to get the patient to resection or transplantation. And that's where the roles of locoregional therapy and systemic therapy comes in, that if you've got tumors which are beyond, or there are reasons for which we cannot do a surgery as a first thing, then they should be offered those modalities of treatment and try and basically how they can come to the table for resection. So that's where, because at the end of the day, the long-term survival or cure is by surgery in this group of patients. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.